Yes, everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Stephen Howson, and this is 5 things that we learned watching Manchester United overturn Southampton. In at number 1, death, taxes, and comebacks. Being 2-0 down at Southampton and turning it around to win 3-2 is, do you know what? It happens. We've now won 10 games from behind against Southampton, which draws level with the 10 games we've won coming from behind against Newcastle. Which is 10, by the way. United love a 3-2 win over Southampton. We've seen a Van Persie-inspired United one in 2012-13. We saw Ibra do one in 16-17. We had Lukaku in 18-19. And now Cavani stepped up with one in 2021. It was a hell of a second-half performance, mostly from Cavani. I thought he was the difference between the two sides. But it should hopefully now give Manchester United a lot of confidence going into what is an absolutely minging run of games in December. Number 2, Cavani saves the day. No shocks there whatsoever. He came on, he got an assist, and he got 2 goals, and 2 brilliant striker, predatory goals. He was heavily involved in everything in the second half, to be honest. He had an 83% pass accuracy, managed 4 shots, which was more than any other player on the pitch, considering he's only on the pitch for half of the game. It's wild. He also managed 2 tackles and 3 ball recoveries as well, showing just how much work he was getting through while he was on the pitch. Solskjaer mentioned after the game that United haven't had a focal point like Cavani since Lukaku left, and hopefully it's the start of a great run of things for Cavani at Old Trafford. Interestingly, or not, I guess, depending on your outlook, that in such a short space of time, Cavani has now managed to the same amount of Premier League goals as Alexis Sanchez managed in all of his time at United. Number 3, missed chances were punished. United trailed at half-time largely because we failed to take our opportunities in the first half, whereas Southampton did. United was on top for most of the first half, but what we did do was allow Southampton the opportunity from set pieces. As we covered in the preview, and if you've not checked out our in-depth previews, then definitely make sure you check it out ahead of the Paris game, because I'm not blowing my own trumpet here, but they're mint. We identified Ward-Prowse as the main threat for Southampton, and set pieces as another main threat that Southampton are going to hurt us from. He scores from a free kick, they score from a set piece. Now, United probably were unlucky to be down 2-0, but we did give them the opportunities. I mean, the free kick from Ward-Prowse was absolutely disgustingly good, but United allowed them that opportunity. We had the chances to be ahead. We had Mason Greenwood and then Bruno Fernandes' little double act on the keeper, pulling off a couple of good saves. We also had Mason from close range. Later in the second half, we had Marcus go through one-on-one when he had Cavani up the side of him. In between all that, Southampton nicked a couple of low expected goals, chances, but they did put them away, and sometimes that's the rub of the green. With some tough fixtures coming up, Manchester United definitely need to be a lot more clinical than we've shown at times in this game. Not Cavani. Cavani was fine in terms of how clinical he was. Absolutely fantastic. But everybody else needs to sharpen it up a little bit. And whether we see Mason Greenwood again starting in the next match, I'd be surprised. But if we do, he needs to start hitting the ground running and start putting some of those chances that he's got away. In at number 4, Donnys' first league start. Now, that seems a mad thing to say, but, you know, Donny van der Beek made his Manchester United Premier League starting debut against Southampton this weekend, and it was an impressive performance midweek, I thought, against Istanbul. He retained his place in midfield as part of a diamond and enjoyed another really positive run out. There was a couple of instances with him and Matic down the left-hand side where they shown why we were looking for both of them players to play in a team and against a team that was going to press us the way that Southampton did do. Because they're press resistant, because they're fantastic on the ball, because they've got such high quality when they're in possession. Van der Beek managed 100% of his dribbles for the second game running and recorded an 82% pass accuracy, as well as help United win what was expected to be a tough midfield battle. In that, he made 4 tackles, won 2 fouls, made a block, as well as completing 90 minutes and ensured once again that United did not miss Paul Pogba. And in at number 5, progress was made. Now, although things were looking pretty bleak for United at half-time, 2-0 down away from home, we hadn't had a million chances ourselves, it looked like we've got a tough ask here to get anything out of this game, let alone try and get 3 points out of it. But Ollie's selection was bang on. His substitutions were bang on. And while the character on on show from the players is admirable. I think Ollie needs a little bit more credit for making the change at halftime. That's a tough one to call that a halftime substitution, the way that we saw him do that with Cavani for Greenwood. And it wasn't that long ago that United were losing in Istanbul and many fans calling for his head. But this isn't a crisis. United are now up to 7th and just 5 points off top of the league with a game in hand. If we can keep up this form, especially away from home, across the winter period, we could easily enter 2021 in a very promising position. United are one of the form teams in the league at the moment. We seem to have put, albeit like there might have been a couple of scares last night, we seem to have put most of our injury crises behind us. We look like we're trying to finally get over that. Solskjaer has now got a bench that he can turn to. Previously, or last season, when we had the likes of Andreas Pereira starting games and Jesse Lingard starting games, he was turning to a bench and going, what's the point in making a substitution? The quality I've got on the bench doesn't even match the quality that's on the pitch, let alone elevate it. Now we've seen in recent weeks, you've had Paul Pogba on the bench, you've had Cavani on the bench. As Solskjaer's starting to turn to a squad that's got quality, both in the 11 and on the bench, he's more likely to use it, more willing to use it. And when he's willing to use it, you're seeing the results that we saw against Southampton. 3-2 flatters them. 3-2 was not the game. I know expected goals people think is a little bit woo, but it does explain the flow of a game. United's expected goals for a 3-2 win against Southampton was a greater margin than Manchester City's 5-0 win against Burnley. Now you'll be like, well, they scored 5 goals and they kept Burnley to a clean sheet. Yes, they did. But the fact remains, they scored from some pretty low-value chances, and United, took our chances quite well today when we had them. The fact remains, it's worth looking into what expected goals is all about. But I thought United put in a very, very solid performance, and we also limited Southampton to 0.5 expected goals as well. So they were a bit fortunate to come away with 2 goals in this game. But either way, United do now start looking like they might have something in the locker to go on and do it. And I think Ollie really needed that, because as soon as we look like we're not going to win a game, everybody comes out, everyone at halftime talking absolute shite, talking about get rid of this clown and this, that and the other. There was nothing systematically that Ollie had done wrong in the first half, really. There was a couple of stupid mistakes for free kicks in wrong areas, and there was players that was up front that was missing their opportunities. That's what football's like sometimes. The margins are that small, the margins are that fine, and this is where you can find yourself ending up. But either way, 3 points were secured, 3 goals did it. Cavani was the man that majorly carried that. I think a shout out to Fred, who had a bit of a low-key, quiet banger of a game. He was absolutely everywhere. A brilliant win for Manchester United. Long may this continue. We've got a horrendous period coming up now with both January and December. Let's see where we're at on the other side of this. But cheers for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel, then make sure to check out the link below for the Patreon group. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Laters.